Angels from the realms of glory? Really? Does it not all sound a bit like a fairy tale? Too fantastical and otherworldly to really be connected with this bleak and dark world of ours. You're not seriously asking me to believe in angels, are you? Whatever your knee jerk reaction might be to the Christmas story, reports of angels, of heavenly visitors, are not just limited to the accounts found in the Gospels. If you take time to explore the pages of the Bible, what you'll find is that angelic visitations can be found not every day, not on every page of the Bible, but they are found at particular moments for particular reasons. And those moments are usually to announce something important, something amazing, or to bring a timely message, or to warn someone to avoid a danger that might lie ahead. How would you expect the Son of God, the King of angels, the Lord of glory, the one who is pre-existent, who has always existed as true God of true God, as one of the carols says? How would you expect them to be announced as a baby on earth? By angelic beings breaking into our world with news so astonishing and breathtaking? What would that look like? Well, why not read for yourself this Christmas in Luke chapter 2, the story of the birth of Jesus and the events surrounding that incredible moment in history. But I want to read to you just a couple of verses that speak of angels from the realms of glory. Luke chapter 2, reading from verse 13. Suddenly, a great company of heavenly hosts appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace to those on whom his favor rests." I have with me Bishop Ian Ferguson, who is based in Aberdeenshire. Is that correct, Ian?
Yes, Port Lethen now.
Very good. And I heard about a story that I think was published in Premier Christianity magazine a couple of years ago. And it's a story about an encounter you had with what you, and I think you're probably right, what you think was an angel. Can you tell us about that story?
Yeah, well, it came one Christmas after what was quite a difficult year for us, and for me in particular in my leading of Westhill Community Church in Aberdeenshire. And we had a particularly difficult year. I won't go into all the details of it. So it came to our usual suite of services for Christmas, and I had done all of the schools, assemblies, Christingle services, carol services, you name it. And then it came to our Christmas Eve service. And so this particular Christmas Eve, uh, yeah, yeah, it was more or less like most Christmas Eve services, other than we had a very, very heavy downfall of snow
Mm.
uh, throughout the day, but in particular in the evening. So we began our service as usual, and the service ended about 1:45, 1:30, 1:45, and then people filed out of the church as they do. And when the last one left, I did what I usually do. I went into the church and tidied it up and got it ready for Christmas morning. And then I went to the office there to put away a number of things like hymn books and service books and that. And I heard a noise at the door of the church. And so I went to the door. I thought, what's that noise? Because everybody had left. There was nobody in the building. And I got to the front door of the church, and there standing um, uh, next to the door was a very strange looking guy who was not dressed for the kind of weather that we were having at this time. In fact, I was quite stunned by the casual wear that he was dressed in.
Yeah. So when you
And so I
say
just said, sorry.
very strange, what do you mean?
Well, I don't know. There was just something very peculiar about him. Um, he had come in from a very snowy car park and snowy weather, and he was standing there, and he didn't look cold or anything, and he was kind of wearing, I don't even know if he was just wearing sandals and things like that, but it was just strange to see somebody, and he had dark hair, and you know, and he had a beard, and he had a dark beard and dark hair, and I said to him, look, I'm really sorry, but the service is finished now. You've missed it.
Mm.
He says, "Oh, I haven't come for the service." I went, "Oh, right." So I thought, "So why have you come?" And he just looked at me and he says, "I've just come to bless you." And I went, "Oh, thank you. And happy Christmas to you as well." And when he said this, I didn't think about it at the time. "I've just come to bless you." So I said to him, "Just hang on there a minute. And the weather is bad outside. I'll give you a lift home." So I went back to the office. I locked the door and went back to the front of the church, to the front door, and he wasn't there, wasn't anywhere to be seen. I went through the front door into the car park to see if maybe he was there. And by this time, the snow had stopped falling, and the car park was just virgin snow, just pure
Mm.
snow, nothing on the snow at all. And I looked around, and the first thing I tried to do was to say, well, I'll know which direction he'll be going in, because his footprints will be in the snow. So I looked at the car park and I said, there's nothing here. And it was really strange. So I went through the car park and up to the main road, which just runs concurrently next to the car park, and there was nothing there. I looked up and down the street, and there was absolutely nobody, no footprints, nothing. And the situation where the church was is not a place where you could be unseen or hide somewhere, or there was a road that you could, or a path that you could nick down and nobody would see you. And we're talking about seconds from the moment I'd spoken to him. So I went, well, that is really strange. So I got back to the church and I locked the front door of the church. I got into my car, and I don't know what it was. It was just like I had a funny feeling inside me.
Yeah.
And I started the car and I went, wow. I said that, and I don't know what it was. You know, you got a little shiver there. What was that about? And then I started to laugh, and I said to myself, maybe I've maybe maybe I've just seen an angel. And I said to myself, oh, Ian, don't be stupid and don't go around telling people that you've seen an angel, you know. Um, so I got into the car and I drove home. Um, and got into my house, and my wife Heather was there doing the final packing of the Christmas presents. And she looked at me and she said, "What's up?" She says, "You know, what's up?" I said, "I don't know." And she says, Why are you, why are you smiling?" I went, "Sorry, I've been smiling for the last 10 minutes." She said, "What's going on?" I said, "I think I've met an angel." And well, she looked at me and she went, "Oh dear. What have we got here?" And I said, "I'm telling you, I think I've met an angel." And she said, "So I told her the story," and she just went, "I think you've met an angel." And I went, "I think it is." I said, she said, "How does it make you feel?" And I said, "Well, it makes me feel like after this year that it's like
Mm.
an encounter that, just made me feel different." And so in the morning when we had our morning Christmas Day service, we were talking about Jesus and the angels, and I said to them, "Has anyone ever met an angel?" And they went, "No." It says, "Well, sometimes you'll say to somebody that has been kind to you, 'Oh, you're just an angel. Thank you so much.'" And I said to the churchman, "I'm going to tell you, last night I met an angel." And they all started to laugh. Well, I don't
Right.
know if all of them did, but they just, and I went, "Come on now," said, "this is one of Ian's jokes." I says, "No, let me tell you this." And I says, "Now you may not believe it, but I believe it." And ever since that day, every time I tell the story, I get the same feeling inside, like, "Oh God." And it was like, I'm going to accept that, despite all the doubters, because the Bible talks about, entertaining angels unawares,
Yes.
and you don't know it. And I said, well, if ever that was a situation where, and where just the words that the person spoke to me just just floored me, just absolutely floored me. And I've told that story once or twice. And then last year, my friend Albert Bogle of the Bogle Band, they wrote a song about it,
Yes, I saw that.
yeah, about Angel, and and he almost got it right, and I mean, it wasn't exactly, but the vast majority of the lyrics he got spot on. Um, but it was an incredible experience, and I
So
just,
just picking up on what you said about what the angel actually said to you,
mm,
"I've come to bless you."
mm, yeah,
And I suppose you've thought about those words quite a bit since
yeah,
that moment.
mm,
And you've mentioned yourself there that it ties into maybe some trials and difficulties that you'd gone through, and maybe that's just what you needed from God at that time. Um, would you say that's a fair comment?
well, it was a hard year. There's no doubt about that. And I'm not saying that God didn't encourage us through that year. He did, but it was still pretty rough. And to end the year like that, now I've never heard God speak like audibly to me or whatever, but I have, like most Christians would, sense God speaking internally to me, into
Hmm.
my spirit and my soul, and you just think, yeah, that's God speaking to me. But this particular one exceeded everything else that I had experienced. I mean, many people have said, I've come to bless you, and many people have blessed me. Uh, and many people have come to the church and ministered, and it's been a blessing. And I could go through all the amazing experiences we had at Westhill Community Church in the early days, through the ministry of people like David Pitches and John Wimber and David Watson. We were powerfully impacted. And so God did communicate powerfully to us, but there was just something special about that moment, about
Yes,
that evening. And it was just like it put a different kind of joy of Christmas into us.
yes,
And I believe it, Richard, uh, and it wasn't weird, and I think that people think about angelic visitations as weird and airy-fairy and all of this kind of thing, but it was very, very normal in one sense. And it wasn't scary.
no,
I didn't feel anxious or afraid. I didn't feel as though this man, had come to attack me. I was in the church on my own, and maybe he thought there was money from the collection, which there was, but not a great deal, I wouldn't imagine. But no, I didn't feel any fear. I felt a
mm,
resonance with the guy, and I really just wanted to speak to him. That's why I said, can I drive you home? And and so it was just, yeah, and it lives with me.
yeah,
And if somebody says to me, do you believe in angels? And I said, well, if you're talking about ones with the wings on it, I said, no, I haven't come across any of them, but I do believe that God has angels, and the Bible tells us that God has angels. And I think sometimes we are so earthly rooted that we don't give cognizance to things that we're encountering that might well be of an angelic origin. Like sometimes we miss the angelic messengers that God sends us because we just miss them. But I'm just sure, that God's angels are with us, and sometimes Heather and I, when we're driving, and we would be that much away from a serious collision,
yeah,
just and she would say, oh, there's an angel watching over us. And I believe there are angels,
yes,
and of course John speaks of the angels of the churches in Revelation,
yes.
and that. So yeah, so it's a story, and it's a good story to tell
It
to
is
my
a great story.
grandchildren.
It
Um,
absolutely is. And, if we reconnect, your story with the Christmas story. And, I've been looking at Luke chapter 2 that speaks about the shepherds and the angelic appearance and the heavenly host and the choir of angels singing glory to God in the highest and
mm,
peace on earth to those on whom his favor rests. And I've just been pondering, what would an angelic appearance be like if it was the King of Angels, the Son of God? There's a carol that speaks about true God of true God, life of life eternal. Uh,
yeah.
what would an angelic appearance be like
Mm,
if they came to announce and sing about that person?
yeah.
Uh, and when we pick up the Bible and look at Luke chapter 2, we can read it a bit like a fairy tale. It's almost too far fetched.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Mm,
but what would it look like?
mm.
if it was the Son of God.
Mm.
And there was an angelic appearance
Mm.
at that moment of great joy.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, would it look like what we read of in Luke chapter 2?
mm,
Well, I think it would.
yeah, yeah. I mean, one of the things in my reflection is one of the things that that meeting of that, what I call that angelic, that angel, um, one of the consequences for me was to worship Jesus. Like
Mm,
it's caused praise to come from my heart to God, to Jesus.
yeah,
And I think of Mary and how when she met the angel, the song she sang was, "My soul magnifies the Lord," and the Magnificat that we sing in the Anglican Church. Um, that's it. That's what an angelic visitation did for her. Um, and and I'm not in that league, but what I do believe is that one of the things that made me believe that God had sent a messenger to me was that it caused me to worship Jesus.
yes,
And it didn't cause me to, I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel like, wow, I must be some guy to be visited. It didn't go down that road because I really knew my frailty. And yeah, and that year wasn't a bag of success for me at all. So it doesn't make me feel that way. It just made me feel and made me say, Jesus, you're wonderful.
yes. And
Isn't he wonderful?
I think that is one of the beautiful things about Christmas. It tells us about a God who touches earth at the point of our frailty. He, he doesn't look for the person who's got it all together, but he's willing to step down and humble himself and touch our lives at the point of our frailty
Yeah,
by becoming frail himself
yeah,
as a human being. And, that's the wonderful good news of the gospel and the incarnation, that Jesus is that person and we can know him
yeah.
in our lives day by day. So
It's a
thank you
wonderful,
so much for sharing your
no, it's a
your
wonderful,
story with us. I really appreciate it.